Hello YouTube, I'm Toby. Today we're going to be building a pretty much all AMD PC. Alright, so right here we have this system. It is complete. My camera was out of battery and I just couldn't wait to build it, so unfortunately you're not going to be able to see that. Now I hope you're okay with that, but it's just my personal project and something I was very excited to get started. Also, I'm using this little light here to give you some better visuals since it's quite dark outside now. I believe it's actually just about midnight here, so. But before we get into the benchmarks, I figured I want to show you just exactly what is in here. Now, if you can probably tell from the title, this is a fully AMD build, and under this somewhat beefy heatsink, we have an FX 6300. Now, even though it's sold as a hexa-core processor, it's actually just a 3-core processor with 6 threads. I'm not entirely sure why. This is the way it is. It's something with the way the cores are built. I learned it once, but I can't really remember it now. But that's okay, that's not a big issue, it's still okay. It's clocked at 3.5 gigahertz. We all have 8 gigabytes of HyperX Fury RAM. This is clocked at, I believe it's 1333 megahertz, but I can't really remember. The motherboard itself, I just bought it from China. It's the cheapest motherboard I could find. Now down here we have an RX 460. It's got 2 gigabytes of GDDR5, and I do believe it's still a fairly decent card. I've done some videos on the RX and some of the FX before, but I do believe this is the first time I have them together in the system. Now down here we have a 250 gigabyte hard disk drive and a 120 gigabyte SSD. Obviously we're using the SSD to boot. You can probably tell in here cable management it's okay for what it is. I still need a one component for this build actually. Now this component is a little PCIe card. It's got going to have 2 USB 3 headers, and it's also going to be connecting to the USB 3 header up here, because right now it's just kind of stored back in here because I can't really plug it in anywhere on this motherboard. Now personally, some of what I am most excited about this build is this case. I believe this is the cheapest new case I have ever bought ever. I gave something like $25 for it, and it definitely shows. It's very light and the build quality is a little shady. I don't know if you can tell. It's just the light here, but this up here is flexing. Everything flexes. I couldn't get the front panel off because of the there's some pins that keeps it in place, and I can't really take them out because they're very inaccessible, and I'm afraid I'm going to break the front panel. Furthermore, back here, this is the first time this bracket here, the one that's above the RX, it's the first time ever I've gotten one of these in plastic. And when I first picked it up, I really couldn't figure out what was going on, but it's just a piece of plastic. Now, I don't yet know exactly all the money I've spent on this system. It's not much, but I will leave a price somewhere on the screen for you to see. The goal with this computer is to really just get something cheap yet useful. And well, now that we're done with that, let's fire it up. Alright, so the build and benchmarks are complete. Now I know the FX processor is old and slow and based on a pretty horrific architecture. But that being said, I still think it's a fun CPU to play with, and if it's your first time building computers, it is fairly cheap and it does offer a fairly decent value for the money. Also, there's a lot of them out there, from 2 to 8 cores, or threads as it actually is. And if you want to get into PC building, I would highly recommend playing around with the FX lineup, because there's so many different CPUs to play around with. And they are basically all supported on the AN3 Plus platform. Now regarding the benchmarks, I did have issues. I wanted to play World War C on the Vulkan API, but it wouldn't let me do that, so we had to do it on the DX11. This may be something to do with the driver that I was using for this, for this video. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you very much for watching.